And that's all to his benefit, Clinton said. Trump took no offense at Clinton mocking his economic policy as trumped-up trickle-down. He could not, however, tolerate Clinton's suggestion that any factor other than his own genius made him rich enough to affix his name to golf courses, apartment buildings, casinos, hotels, and dress shirts. My father gave me a very small loan in 1975, and I built it into a company that's worth many, many billions of dollars, with some of the greatest assets in the world, Trump said. And I say that only because that's the kind of thinking that our country needs. The two of us, Suzanne Craig and Russ Buettner of the investigative reporting team at the New York Times, had been exploring the moving parts of that claim since Trump leaped to the front of a crowded Republican field earlier that year. Russ had reported on Trump's failures running casinos and golf courses, Suzanne on his strained relationships with Wall Street and his hundreds of millions of dollars of debt. Then, days before the first debate, an anonymously addressed manila envelope arrived in Suzanne's mailbox at the Times. She opened it to find what appeared to be a few pages from Trump's 1995 tax return. The line for total income showed a stunning figure, almost too jarring to seem plausible. Negative $915,729,293. The Times published our article, which we worked on with other colleagues, about Trump's nearly $1 billion loss the weekend after the first debate. It might have led some voters to think hard about whether Trump's business career indeed reflected the kind of thinking our country needed. Either way, 6 weeks later, enough voters in enough states chose Trump for him to become the 45th president of the United States. Political reporters in general were widely criticized for failing to recognize Trump's popularity and momentum. Fair enough. But it was also true that no major party candidate in the modern era had made it to Election Day with such a thin level of credential vetting. That, in our opinion, was a failure of equal proportion. But it was not for lack of will. It was largely due to the unique characteristics of Trump and his candidacy. Nearly all candidates for president have lived in the public eye and occupied public office for decades. Their every move has been scrutinized. They have filed financial disclosure forms. Most have made little money outside public office, and their finances tend to be fairly simple. Trump was an anomaly on multiple levels. He was perhaps the best-known business person in the country about whom almost nothing was known for certain. He had hovered for decades at the nexus of business and tabloid celebrity, often treated more as an entertaining sideshow than a man of consequence. He rose to national stature alongside the same media outlets that elevated the rich and successful to a new level of celebrity. Countless fawning profiles in more serious outlets, including in the Times, dutifully quoted him making assertions that could have been revealed as wildly false. The guiding journalistic principle seemed to be, what could it possibly matter if Donald Trump lies about himself? He was always available, working to charm journalists who could bring him the attention he needed more than water. And his bombast made for good copy and excellent television, boosting ratings and newsstand sales for decades. A portion of the nation happily went along for the ride, seemingly eager to believe a fantasy from a handsome, rich man. None of it mattered. Until it did. Trump had never run for public office, but had publicly toyed with the idea, testing the waters in 1988, 2000, 2003, and 2013. The 2016 campaign began like another quixotic play, perhaps intended to generate attention that he could monetize. Trump became the leading candidate too late to allow enough time to pry into his tightly held family operation. Chief executives of public corporations face a merciless grading period every 120 days, but only Trump graded Trump. The veracity of the claim that his business track record reflected the kind of thinking that would save America was buried in the records of a small company started by his father almost a century earlier. We set out to find the truth. We began by gathering reams of public documents related to his father Fred's career, deeds, mortgages, court records, and congressional testimony. We closely analyzed the details of financial disclosure forms his sister had been required to file as a federal judge. We tracked down sources who had worked with Fred Trump.